Dear learners, I, Dr. Smriti Sikha Sodri, welcome you all to this video lecture on the theory of international trade. It is a part of your second module on the basic theories of international trade. You have already got a fair idea about the concept of international trade. Let us now discuss different theories of international trade. So, the learning objective of this lecture is after going through this module, you will be able to explain the theory of absolute advantage. Then you will be able to describe the theory of comparative advantage, and you will be able to discuss an evaluation of this theory of comparative advantage. And then we will discuss the theory of opportunity cost. As a course introduction, in the introductory module, you have learned about the distinguishing features of international economies as a distinct discipline of applied economics. You have also learned about the importance of the discipline along with the increasing interdependence among the nations. So, this lecture examines basis for trade and gains from trade through the different theories like Adam Smith's theory of absolute advantage, then David Ricardo's theory of comparative cost, and G. Habler's theory of opportunity cost. So first, let us discuss the theory of absolute advantage. This theory is prepared by Adam Smith. Adam Smith, in his famous book, The Wealth of Nations, advocated the free trade is best policy for the nations of the world. This free trade should be based on the absolute advantage. That is, the nation should produce and export only those commodities in which it had an absolute advantage or could produce more efficiently than the other nations. So, at the same time, a nation should import only those commodities in which it had an absolute disadvantage, or we can say like could produce less efficiently than the other countries. So, in this way, all nations can gain by each specializing in the production and export of the commodities of its absolute advantage and importing the commodities of its absolute disadvantage. Output worldwide would increase as a result of this international specialization of factors on production. So, these increases in the output will be shared by trading with different nations. So, now let us discuss this with the help of a example. So, you can see from this table 1, like here two items have been considered. One is production of wheat and another one is production of cloth. And two countries were considered, US and UK. You can see like US can produce 6 quintals of wheat in per labor hour, whereas UK can produce only 1 quintals of wheat. And then US can produce only 1 kilometers per labor hour, only 1 kilometers of cloth, whereas UK can produce 2 kilometers of cloth at the same labor hour. So the table highlights that the trade relationship between US and the UK. So the US has an absolute advantage in the production of wheat, while the UK excels in the production of cloth. So if both the countries specializes in their respective strength, then US in wheat and UK in cloth, the total production would increase to 12 quintals of wheat and 4 kilometers of cloth. So this specialization and the voluntary exchange result in a combined output that benefits both the nation. So according to Adam Smith, free trade with minimal government interventions enhances the production of all traded commodities, maximizes trade gains and improves global welfare. So this theory was used for a long time. Then after 40 years of this application of this theory, David Ricardo's theory of comparative advantage came into the place. So now let us discuss the theory of comparative advantage. So David Ricardo, building on Adam Smith's ideas, proposed the theory of comparative advantage, which emphasizes that trade should be based on the relative efficiency rather than absolute advantage. So according to Ricardo, even if a country has an absolute disadvantage in producing all goods, it can still benefit from trade by specializing in the production of and export of the goods where its disadvantage is smaller, that is comparative disadvantage, and importing the goods where its disadvantage is greater. So this principle allows for mutually beneficial trade between the nations regardless of their overall efficiency level. So table 2, you can see that it illustrates the law of comparative advantage. Although the UK has an absolute disadvantage in producing both wheat and cloth, its disadvantage is smaller in production of cloth compared to its production of wheat. So in cloth production, giving it a comparative advantage in cloth and a comparative disadvantage in wheat. So conversely, the US has an absolute advantage in producing both commodities, but its advantage is greater in case of wheat and then in case of cloth. So granting it a comparative advantage in wheat and comparative disadvantage in cloth. According to the law, the US can make wheat for cloth and with the UK, benefiting both the nations through specialization and exchange. So this table to demonstrate that specialization and trade between the US and UK can lead to mutual gains. If the US specializes in wheat and the UK in cloth, they can exchange suppose 6 quantities of wheat for 6 quantities of cloth. So this benefits both the nation. The UK avoids spending 6 labor hours to produce 6 wheat and instead produces 12 clothes, keeping 6 clothes after the exchange. Meanwhile, the US gains 3 clothes compared to domestic production. So for mutually beneficial trade, the exchange rate must fall between your 6 wheat for 3 clothes. So minimum for US, and 6 wheat for 12 clothes, that is maximum for UK. So creating a range of 3 clothes which should be less than 6 wheat should be less than 12 clothes. The total gain from this trade is your 9 clothes, which is 12 clothes minus 3 clothes. Ultimately, you will get 9 clothes. So the closer the exchange ratio is to 6 wheat for 12 clothes, the more the US benefits. The closer it to 6 wheat for 3 clothes, the more the UK benefits. So the final exchange ratio depends on each country's demand for a condition. So in this theory, David Ricardo has put some assumptions. So I will just discuss this assumption. First assumption is the economy operates without government intervention. Then perfect competition prevails in both product factor and market conditions. Then static condition prevails in the economy without any change in factors and domains. Technology also and taste and preference of the customers remain static. Then labor is the only factor of production, and therefore cost of production is expressed in terms of labor hour. Then labor is perfectly mobile within the country and perfectly immobile among the different countries. There is no transportation cost. Only 2 commodities are traded between the 2 countries. The economy is non-monetized, and prices of different goods are measured by their real cost of production. Full employment of resources prevails in both countries, and better trading occurs between the 2 countries. So these are the assumptions of the theory. Let us discuss the evaluation of the theory of comparative advantage. The law of comparative advantage is valid till date. However, like any other theories under classical setup, Ricardo's law of comparative advantage is based on a number of unrealistic assumptions like full employment of resources, static condition, non-monetized economy, etc. One of these assumptions is that labor theory of value. So, with this, the value and accordingly, the price of a commodity can be inferred from the amount of labor time spared in its production. So, there are some drawbacks in this theory also. Now, let us discuss the third theory, that is the theory of opportunity cost. So, in this theory, we will discuss first the production possibility curve with constant opportunity cost. The production possibility curve, or in short term, we can say it as PPC, of the transformation curve can be used to illustrate the opportunity cost. A PPC shows all the various alternative combinations of the two commodities that a nation can produce by fully utilizing all of its factors of production with the best technology available. So the slope of the PPC then refers to the marginal rate of transformation, or in short form we can say it as MRT. It refers to the amount of a commodity that the nation must give up in order to get one more unit of the second commodity. So the PPC of a country is a straight line if it faces constant cost or MRT. The straight line PPC has an absolute slope equal to the constant opportunity cost or MRT, which is also equal to the relative commodity price in the nation. So from this table 3, you can see that again both US and UK has been considered. So when US is producing 60 quintals of wheat and 120 kilometers of cloth in the same labor hour, UK is producing 160 quintals of wheat and 80 kilometers of cloth. So the opportunity cost analysis can be like in US, producing unit of wheat cost 120 by 60, that is your 2 units of cloths. And again for UK, the producing 1 unit of wheat cost 80 by 160, that is 0.5 unit of cloths. So the US should specialize in wheat, which is lower opportunity cost, and the US in cloth. So both the countries trade to achieve the consumption beyond what they could produce alone. So this table 3 shows the maximum amount of wheat or cloth that the two countries, that is UK and US, could produce with the best technology available and with full utilization of productive resources at their disposal. So now with constant opportunity cost of producing wheat and cloth for each nation, the resulting straight line, which you can see in the figure, the PPC has been shown. At each point of the straight line PPC, it represents one combination of wheat and cloth that the nation can produce. For example, at the point A, the UK produces 40 units of cloth and it produces 40 units of wheat. At the point A dash, and the US produces 40 units of cloth and 80 units of wheat. So the negative slope PPCs of the commodity implies that the more of one commodity the nation produce, the less it is available to produce of the other. So these theories explain how specialization and trade allows countries to achieve greater efficiency, higher production and mutual benefits. Now let us discuss basis for trade and gains from the trade under constant opportunity cost. In the absence of trade, a nation's PPC or production possibilities frontier and its consumption frontier are the same. So it implies that the nation can produce only a combination of commodities that it can produce. However, after trade situation changes, a country with trade can consume more of both commodities than without trade, of comparative advantage as well as disadvantage, because the country can specialize in the production of the commodity of its comparative advantage, then exchange part of this commodity for the commodity of its comparative disadvantage produced by the other nation which specializes in the production of that commodity. So from this figure 2, you can see that it reveals that in the absence of trade, UK produces and consumes at the point A, while the US does so to the point A dash, which you can see from the graph. So it is clear that in the absence of trade, the marginal rate of transformation, that is the slope of the line AB, is equal to half in case of UK. For the country US, the same is equal to 2. You can see from the other graph, the slope of the line is A dash and B dash. So thus it is clear from the figure that UK has a comparative advantage in cloth and US has comparative advantage in production of wheat. Therefore, a mutually advantageous trade is possible within the range of half less than production of cloth, production of cloth and production of wheat ratio, which should be less than 2. So if with trade the production of cost and production of cloth and production of wheat is stabilized at 1, the UK can move from the point A to point B in the production. Out of 120 cloth produced at point B, the UK exchanges 60 clothes for 60 wheat from US and end up consuming at the point of E. Thus, trade involves a gain in consumption of 20 clothes and 20 wheat over the non-trade consumption point A. So on the other hand, the US moves from point A dash to point B dash in the production of 60 of its 160 wheat produced at point B dash for 60 clothes from the UK and ends up consuming at the point E dash. So this is one of the possible outcome showing the gain with complete specialization and trade by each nation. Now let us discuss the production possibilities curve in increasing opportunity cost. So opportunity cost in a real world, it increases instead of diminishing. Thus the opportunity cost or MRT in producing more units of a commodity increases. So the PPC curve is in such a situation is concave to the origin. So the country will then produce where MRT equals to the equilibrium relative commodity price in the nation. So in this case of increasing cost, the equilibrium relative commodity price in the nation is determined by demand and supply condition of the nation. So from this figure, it shows a hypothetical production possibility curve for the UK and US, showing increasing cost in the absence of trade. The UK would produce at point A, where the MRT is equal to 1 by 4. Here, production of cost and production of wheat ratio is 1 by 4. Is given by the internal equilibrium of demand and supply. If this nation rises, it would pay for the UK to produce more cloth and less wheat. A movement along with the curve in the downward direction. However, as the UK does this, its MRT for cloth wheat ratio rises. Thus, the US will produce less cloth and more of wheat. It is clear that at the point B dash, the US incurs a lower MRT. So, which means that its reciprocal or MRT for wheat cost ratio is higher than at the point of A dash. So the basis for trade and gains from the trade under increasing opportunity cost. So when the production possibility curve is concave, nation faces increasing opportunity cost. As they specialize in producing their comparative advantage goods, specialization continues until the rising MRT equals to the relative commodity price determined by the trade. So trade allows a nation to consume beyond their no trade production and consumption possibilities. So let us suppose that in the absence of trade, the internal equilibrium, that is PC or production of cloth and production of wheat ratio is 1 by 4 in case of UK and 4 in case of US. So it is clear from the figure 3 that the UK produces and consumes at the point A, while the US produces and consumes at the point A dash. So in the absence of trade, the UK has a comparative advantage in cloth and the US in wheat. Since your production of cloth and wheat ratio is lower in the UK than in US, so mutually advantageous trade is possible within the range of 1 by 4 to 4. So if this production of cloth wheat ratio is established at point 1 with the trade UK, then move from point A to point B in the production. So at this stage, the UK can exchange 60 of each 120 clothes that is produced at the point B. So for 60 wheat from US and ends up consuming at point E. So thus the country is with a gain of 20 clothes and 20 wheats over point A. So from this graph, you can see that the point A and the point A dash. So the for US, it moves up from point A dash to point B dash in production. So thereby it exchanged 60 wheat for 60 clothes with the UK and ends up at point E dash. So point E dash involves a gain of 20 clothes and 20 wheats, then at point A dash. So as the UK specializes in cloth production, its cost of producing cloth increases. Similarly, as the USA specializes in wheat production, its cost of producing wheat is also increases. Specialization will continue in each country until its MRT reaches to the 1. So under increasing cost, the US and UK do not fully specialize in production of one commodity, leading to incomplete specialization compared to the case of constant cost. So we have come to the end of this video lecture. Now let us sum up what we have discussed in this lecture. So in this lecture, we have discussed about 3 theories. According to absolute advantage theory, a country should produce and export goods it can make more efficiently than others. It should import goods that other countries produce more efficiently. Then in second theory, the theory of comparative advantage stated that even if a country is less efficient in producing all goods, absolute disadvantage, it should focus on goods it is less inefficient at producing in real world application. Then the opportunity cost theory stated that opportunity cost is what a country sacrifices in producing one goods instead of the another. So a country should specialize in goods where it has a lower opportunity cost, leading to better resources use and gains from the trade, production possibility curve, it illustrates the trade-offs, okay, a country faces in producing two goods. So under constant opportunity cost, the PPC is a straight line. So that's all for today. See you again in the next module. Till then, bye.